What's up, boys? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and today we've got a pretty spicy one. Now, this is my take on a tier list for the original 6 characters we got with Marvel's Avengers. Now, let's be honest, there's no way to do this in any sort of order that will absolutely please everyone. So, just as a major disclaimer, this is my opinion based on over 200 hours played and getting all characters to level 50 and at least 130 power. Also, a huge disclaimer that I think every character in this game is extremely powerful, and when played by skilled players, can easily complete all content. So, if your favorite character is not number one, please don't hate me. This list is just for fun. And honestly, it was really hard to settle on a final list as all of these characters are separated by a razor thin margin. I really don't think any of them are miles better or worse than any other characters just based on my ranking. There are a lot of variables about each character, but I'm really trying to focus on end game gameplay. I'm also not factoring in any current glitches or cheeses that any characters have. And last thing, of course, obviously, this is not a final list. We haven't seen all of the end game content that'll be coming to this game, and characters can be nerfed, buffed, and other characters can come out. So, of course, this list will definitely change, but this is my take just as of right now. So before we get into it, be sure to shoot me a like and subscribe for more content, and also join my Twitch and Discord family as well. Link in the description. Also, just a big shout out to Tony Bing Gaming for letting me use some of his gameplay in the background for Ms. Marvel and Black Widow. He has fantastic builds for both those and every character, so go ahead and check him out. Link to his channel in the description. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So, starting at the bottom at number 6, it hurts me to give this spot to this character, but I have to give it to Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. To my Kamala mains, don't hate me, let me explain. I really do love Kamala, and I truly enjoy playing her. She is an absolute monster on the ground and can deal unparalleled damage to multiple enemies simultaneously. However, her incredibly inferior ranged combat is absolutely crippling, and her heroic abilities are fairly limited in their usage. Her high five is fine, but underwhelming compared to something like a unibeam for single target, or a god blast or a steamroller for crowd control. Her heal is unique, but hardly really too relevant. The self-resurrect is kind of cute, but if you're going down, you're already losing stars on the objective, so that's not something you want to be doing anyway. Her ultimate, however, is one of the best in the game for a roaming ultimate, and can deal out absolutely massive damage to ground units. With the proper gear, she can get a little more out of her heal ability that can help support the team, but even with perfect gear, the buffs that she provides are only slightly better than what some other characters can do by default. And even then, you're put into a tough and kind of awkward situation where you have to choose whether to use your heal defensively or offensively. Kamala can be slotted into a team that wants a dedicated ground pounder and can excel substantially as a DPS brawler, provided your teammates can provide you with some range support. Or she's also a very good companion NPC as well, who will constantly get the timing of the heal right to keep you alive. But that said, her narrowness in her playstyle and underwhelming heroics land her in this spot. At number 5, we have Iron Man, another character I always have a blast playing, but I had to kind of give him this spot on the list. He really should be an extremely versatile character, kind of always having a different tool for the job. His rockets can dish out fantastic range damage, his lasers can hit a wide area and easily stun, his repulsors are useful as kind of a low energy ranged option, but his biggest issue is that his versatility is only skin deep. While you're leveling Iron Man, you will be consistently swapping between weapons and feeling like a badass, comboing out with all of your different gadgets. But once you're playing end game content with Iron Man, unfortunately, your gear and skills really do force you to focus on one weapon type. And if I'm being realistic, rockets are far and away the best option. His lasers can be okay in a niche build, and his repulsors are fairly underwhelming to say the least. But for his heroic abilities, his Unibeam is a great single target option, and Omega Beam can be pretty solid for tightly packed groups of enemies and can also generate a lot of heroic orbs, but it is a little tough to usually line up a shot that's worthwhile. His quote support heroics aren't really much of a support to anyone but himself. Getting 13 seconds of overcharge and infinite energy is probably his most powerful ability and will just allow you to spam rockets and dish out a ton of damage. However, the support functions of this ability, such as overcharging your teammates or instantly reviving your teammates, are fairly useless. If you activate while reviving a teammate, you'll probably have them up before the animation even finishes anyway. And while overcharge is good for some characters, it's too easily lost to be a relevant ability to give to someone else, especially for AI teammates or even human teammates who just may not be in a position to be ready to receive an overcharge. The Hulkbuster is an okay ultimate. It's a little less powerful than Embiggen in terms of raw damage, but much more versatile in its abilities. However, it desperately needs a faster summon time. The ability to put it down for a teammate is cool, but it's hardly relevant. All things considered, Iron Man is a very powerful character, and he can consistently pummel enemies with high damage rockets while remaining at a safe distance. But unfortunately, that's really the only thing going for him right now. So if you don't get bored spamming rockets, you can easily clear all content in the game without breaking a sweat. But if you try to get much fancier than that, he quickly becomes lackluster, and that's why he's number 5 on our list. At number 4, we have Hulk. Now, Hulk smashes, and while I think a lot of players slept on Hulk when the game first released, mostly due to his weakness at lower levels and pretty bad movement abilities, people are now starting to see that properly geared, he can hit like a truck in a large area and provide incredible support for the team. All of Hulk's heroic abilities are very good. His ultimate can provide a serious burst of damage to tough targets, while Stranglehold can quickly do another burst of damage while also healing Hulk and putting him directly into overcharge. It can also hold 2 charges and can be used as a takedown on larger enemies, which if timed correctly can be a nice counter to some unblockable AoE attacks. Bone Shaker, which is his support heroic, can be great for keeping enemies taunted and off your teammates. It hits in a very, very large area, and with the proper gear and skills, can provide a ton of team benefits, including heroic orbs and various debuffs to enemies affected by it. Hulk, however, does have some downsides. Again, his movement is extremely limited. At a high level, you're more often than not going to be spamming his power attacks over and over, which do have a very long charge up time, and when one enemy is knocked away from the area of effect, you kind of have to reposition and start over, which can be very frustrating. His ability to wield enemies as weapons is a novel idea, but unfortunately it's not really useful in high-end games. His ranged game is also one of the weakest among all characters from a pure damage perspective. However, with his masteries, his range attacks can be modified to be used as more utility than actual damage output. The ability to pin enemies or deal some AoE stun damage from your ranged throws can be a nice compromise for his below average ranged game. Now, not that it hasn't been said already, but he desperately needs some more intrinsic stagger resist due to the slow nature of his attacks, and also overcharge protection. His overcharge is too important to his character, and it's painful that it goes away immediately at the first blip of damage. But overall, Hulk does exactly what you'd expect. He smashes, and he's very good at it. His ability to do what you'd expect and do it well, combined with his surprisingly useful team support, land him at our number 4 spot. At number 3, we have Black Widow. Widow is an absolute powerhouse. Her ability to stay invisible indefinitely can totally dominate the battlefield. She can be built for either melee or ranged combat, or even a mix of both. She is an extremely versatile character who can work well on any team. Now, like Iron Man, she does have 3 options for her ranged abilities, and while you do still have to really focus on one of them to get the most out of it, the difference is that all 3 of hers are actually good. Her SMG, pistols, and high caliber shots effectively work as a short, medium, and long range weapon respectively. The SMG is more focused on building stun bars, while the other 2 have very good damage output. And this makes sense because if you're building stun, you obviously want to be close to your target to perform a takedown. Her invisibility is easily her most valuable skill, and while it's extremely powerful, it is important to note that you aren't always as untouchable as you think while you're in it. Obviously, AoE attacks can still get you, but also some ranged enemies who may have been outside of the radius when you activated it still have no problem targeting you with lasers, missiles, and other various ranged attacks, so just be mindful of that. Her ultimate and Assault Heroic are both good abilities, but neither of them are incredibly game-breaking. Especially when properly geared, Widow can be an absolute machine and can easily carry any team against any enemy type. Her biggest downsides are that she is squishy, which can be mitigated somewhat by having invisibility up more often than not, and she also has very limited options for area of effect attacks, and mostly relies on taking out enemies one at a time, giving her that assassin playstyle. The only reason she isn't higher on this list is really because she does require very optimal gear to truly reach that gameplay loop where she is absolutely untouchable. Also, she doesn't have that much utility to assist other team members, which isn't really a bad thing due to the type of character that she's supposed to be, but it's what leads me to have 2 other characters higher than her on this list, so that is why she comes in at number 3. At number 2, we have Thor Odinson, the God of Thunder. Thor is a phenomenal character who can be built for extremely, extremely high DPS, both for single target and crowd control. His range game is also fantastic with the ability to pin enemies, automatically crit, and deal AoE lightning and other valuable abilities. He also has the best heroic package in the game in my opinion. Bifrost, Warrior's Fury, and God Blast are all top tier abilities. Bifrost can deal some of the highest burst damage in the game, while God Blast can clear entire groups of enemies single-handedly, and both can inflict valuable status effects on tankier enemies. Combine this with Thor's unnecessarily high intrinsic heroic rating, and these abilities will do fantastic damage regardless of the content you're playing. His support heroic, Warrior's Fury, is probably the best support ability in the game. Now, at the time of this writing in version 1.3.1 of the game, the ability doesn't quite work the way it states. It is supposed to give Thor and all teammates in range invulnerability to all damage for 12 seconds. And also while giving Thor an auto lightning strike attack. It currently does not give teammates teammates' invulnerability. Although on their screen it may say that it does, they do still take damage. So hopefully that will get addressed at some point. But that said, even just having the ability affect Thor, it's already one of the top abilities in the entire game. But with the proper skills, this can also give exceptional damage buffs to both Thor and teammates as well. This is a buff that you will want to have up as often as possible in tough fights, and is an absolutely incredible ability for helping the team break through tough enemy defenses. Regardless of what new endgame content the developers throw at us, I can confidently say that this ability and having a team invulnerability buff will always be a valuable skill to have, so I do not see Thor going away anytime soon. Overall, I cannot say enough good things about Thor. He absolutely feels like a god to play, and in my opinion, he can only be topped by one character. Now, by process of elimination, our number one character in Marvel's Avengers, in my opinion, is Captain America. Captain America has an extremely balanced kit between his melee and ranged combat. He has versatility and agility in his melee game, and his ranged power attacks very effortlessly ricochet between targets, making him a powerful ranged option as well. But the real reason he's number one, in my opinion, is his ability to stay in his ultimate, the Brooklyn Brawler, indefinitely, which basically makes you a Super Saiyan and allows you to perform stunless takedowns on any low life enemy. In many cases with tankier enemies, you can even perform 2 or even 3 takedowns until they are finally gone. Once an enemy is below a certain health, there is no escape. If there is a cap on your team, he will always be able to clean house. His other support abilities are also very respectable. Rally Cry can provide a very solid debuff to enemies, allowing them to take more damage, and Steamroller can be a very efficient crowd control ability that can hold multiple charges and generate tons of heroic orbs. Neither ability is absolutely mind-blowing, but they are both absolutely serviceable, and when used collectively, make Captain America an extremely well-rounded powerhouse. Playing a Captain America, you do truly feel unstoppable, and when you're playing with a good Captain America on your team, you can be sure that there are going to be a ton of heroic orbs for everybody. So there you have it. That's my list. Again, this is just my ranking. Let me know your rankings in the comments. Obviously, when new exotics come out or characters get nerfs or buffs, this whole thing is subject to change, so I do reserve the right to change my opinion. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, throw me a like and subscribe for some more content. I hope you all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.